Hello, welcome back to Statistics and Mathematics YouTube channel. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe, like and share so that this video too will get to your friends. Today we are going to calculate how to calculate for critical values for chi-square distribution. But before we start, I would like us to visit our chi-square distribution table to see how the table look like, so that once we are able to go through this, you will be able to calculate for our critical value from the table. Let's go and visit the table. So this is how the chi-square distribution table look like. It has a symbol like x squared divided by subscript alpha. So this is how it look like, right? So to this row, right, you'll be having what you call the degrees of freedom, right? And we know that the degrees of freedom is n minus 1, right? The degrees of freedom is coming n minus 1, where our n is a sample size. You subtract 1 from it to get our degrees of freedom. And here is chi-square with an alpha of 0.995 coming, chi-square with an alpha of 0.990, chi-square with an alpha of 0.975, chi-square with an alpha of 0.95, chi-square with an alpha of 0.9, chi-square with an alpha of 0.1, chi-square with an alpha of 0.05, chi-square with an alpha of 0.25, chi-square with an alpha of 0.01, and chi-square with an alpha of 0.005. Right, so this is how the distribution goes. So you just calculate for your alpha, and then just trace the chi-square alpha rate or your degrees of freedom to get your critical value. Your critical value from this table. Right, so let's go to our worksheet and see how one can be able to find our critical value of a chi-square distribution. So our first question is saying find the chi-square right and chi-square left for a 90% confidence interval when our n is equal to 20. So right now our n is giving us 20, so we have been asked to find chi-square right and chi-square left for 95% confidence interval. So we know that chi-square right is equal to alpha divided by 2 with n minus 1 degrees of freedom, right? So how can we get our alpha? We know that our alpha is equal to 1 minus I'm coming in a minute. We know that our alpha is equal to 1 minus our confidence level, and our confidence level here was given as 0.9 or 90%, right? So here our alpha was given as 1 minus 0.9. Once you subtract 0.9 from 1, you are going to get 0.1, right? And we know that our chi-square to the right is alpha divided by 2. So we are just going to divide our 0.1 by 2 to get we are going to divide to get this. I'm coming. Okay, let's continue. So we are going to divide our alpha by 2 to get 0.05 with 90 degrees of freedom. So once we have 0.05 with 90 degrees of freedom, we go straight to the chi-square distribution table, locate degrees of freedom of 19 and chi-square subscript 0.05, and then where the degrees of freedom and then 0.05 will meet, that one will be the critical value. So let's go and find how you can see the chi-square to the right. So first, our degrees of freedom was 19, so here we'll get 19. You see our n was given as 20, so the degrees of freedom is n minus 1, and then 20 minus 1 is equal to 90. That's the reason why degrees of freedom was 90. So we are not going to use 20, right? So here we locate our 19 here, right? And then chi-square subscript 0.05 to, you are going to locate it here, as you can see here, right? So you are just going to trace where the 19 and the 20 meet, right? So right now when you come here, you just trace from 19, right? You are just tracing, right? And then this is where it meets a column of 0.05. So you trace this one down to, so they are meeting on this critical value. That's 30.144. So that's what we have on our worksheet, right? So that's what we have on our worksheet, 30.144, right? So that's how we can calculate for chi-square to the right. So what about chi-square to the left? Chi-square to the left is also given as 1 minus alpha divided by 2 with n minus 1 degrees of freedom, right? So n minus 1 degrees of freedom, we are just going to subtract our degrees of freedom for what we have sorry, we are just going to subtract what we have from here, right? We got 0.1 divided by 2, of which that was given as 0.05. So here we are just going to subtract 0.05 from 1 to get 0.95, right? With our n minus 1 degrees of freedom, which will give us 19. We are just also going straight to the chi-square distribution table, locate our degrees of freedom of 19, and then our chi-square subtract 0.95, and then where the emerges will be our critical value, right? So let's go to our table and then find that. So when we come here, you will see that degrees of freedom of 19 and chi-square subtract 0.95. Chi-square subtract 0.95 is here. You can just trace it down, right? And then when you trace the 19 down, they are meeting at 10.117. So here 10.117, we are having 10.117, right? So that one will be our critical value. So therefore you could see that the chi-square to the right for this question under 90% confidence interval, to the right is 30.144 and to the left is 10.117, right? So that's our first question. So this is our second question. So it reads, find the chi-square right and chi-square left for 95% confidence interval when our n is equal to 10, right? And we know that chi-square right is given as alpha divided by 2 with with n minus 1 degrees of freedom. And then we know that this is our confidence level. If we want the alpha is given as 1 minus 0.95, which you are going to get 0.05 divided by 2, right? Once you divide it by 2, you are going to get 0.025 with 9 degrees of freedom. So let's go to the table rate, this one and that one. We will be able to find our critical value from the table. So we have a degrees of freedom of 9, and then alpha subscripts 0.025, right? So we're just going to trace this one to that side, right? And then trace this one to this side, and they are meeting at 19.023, right? So that one will be our critical value. So let's go to our worksheet and see what we got. The answer we got, right? So we are also having 19.023, right? So that is how we can find that one to the right. What about to the left? To the left, you are just going to pick this one and subtract it from 1. So you are going to pick 0.025 and subtract it from 1, right? To get 0.975 with 9 degrees of freedom. Let's go to the table and see what we will get for that one too. So when we come to the table, we have 0.975 with a degrees of freedom of 9. We are getting 2.70, right? 2.700. So this one will be our critical value too for that one. So let's go to our worksheet and see what we had for that question. So you could see clearly that here we are having 2.700. So this is how we can find our chi-square right and chi-square left when our 95% confidence interval is given to us with a specific degrees of what? A specific sample size or degrees of freedom, right? So I'll leave this one to you as an assignment, right? You have to find the chi-square right and chi-square left for 99% confidence interval when our n is equal to what? 20. Please, once you are done with this question, kindly share your answer at the comment section, and then I'll see to it that I'll respond for you. So please, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, kindly subscribe, like and share so that this video will get to your friends so that they too can also benefit. So this is how we can find our chi-square critical value when our confidence interval and then our n is given to us. Thank you for watching. Bye. Have a great day.